Welcome to the next video for R programming and basics. Today we'll be discussing about how matrix operation is performed in R. Now what basically is happens in R is, first say for example, if you want to create a Q matrix with the values in a particular vector. In that case, say for example, we type in this data within the Q matrix. We need to assign that we are creating a matrix which in which we have these data sets which is included within the vector. And if say if you want to display the Q matrix, then we just need to type in Q, and this is how the data has been displayed to us. Secondly, we want to know want to display the fifth component within the Q matrix. In that case, we need to type in the matrix name, and then the fifth as we want to know the fifth data, we just need to type in that number, and the fifth data over here is 13, and it shows the output accordingly. And say for an example, we want to know the length of the data in the Q matrix. In that case, we need to type in length, and within the backthread, we need to mention the matrix name, that is the Q. Then in that case, the R basically calculates all the complete data sets in the Q matrix. Now we wanted to know the dimension in the Q matrix. Now when we type in dimension in Q matrix, the output basically gives us null. The reason for that is it shows null because the Q matrix has not been formatted into a data frame. So to see the data, we basically need to convert that matrix into a data frame. So formatting a Q matrix into a data frame is done by assigning the data.frame function that we need to type in, and the matrix that we want to convert into a data frame. We have also again given the name, similar name of the matrix as Q. And if you now want to know the dimensions, now we basically get the output as 9 and 1, which means that it has nine characters in particular, length of 9 characters it has, or numeric values it has within a particular single row or in a single column. Now we want to create a R matrix. Now we want to create a new matrix, that is R matrix with 4 rows and 5 columns. How do we come up with that? In that case, we type in the matrix function, and we assign that we need to like to have 4 rows and 5 columns to it. And this the matrix name is known as termed as R. And if you put on the output for that, we basically over here we have 4 rows and 5 columns. This is how the output for matrix operation is shown. Now we want to create our fill the J matrix, that is a new matrix that we'll be making, which is of 5 rows and 1 column with components. In that case, we need to type in again the matrix function, and then the data that we want to show within that, and we've named the matrix name is J. And if you just type in would like to see the output for that, this is how it basically shows. It takes all the data from here, from 4 to 8, and it has, as we mentioned it over here, it has 5 rows and it has 1 column over here. So the data gets 5 rows and 1 column. This is how the matrix adjustment is being done. Now thirdly, we want to know that we want to create a sequential number from 1 to 15 with an interval of 1. In that case, we need to type in sequence, and from 1 to 15, and the output is basically thrown out. Now D1 is basically the default, so it does not have any, we are not giving any particular interval as such. If you want to create an interval, say for example, we want to create a sequential number from 4 to 10 with an interval of 3. In that case, we need to type in sequence from what the data is going to begin with, that is from 4 and till 50, and we need an interval by 3. In that case, the output begins from 4 and and it moves out from each interval of 3, and then this is how the overall output basically is shown. Now we want to create a sequential number from 0 to 3 with an interval of 0.25. We make it a similar fashion where we type in sequence from 0 to 3, and by this is the interval that we have how we want our data to be distributed, and the output is shown within that particular length and the interval. Now we want to create a K matrix from which is from 5 rows and 6 columns with sequential numbers from 1 to 30. In that case, we type in array because it is now a part of array where we want the data from 1 to 30, and the dimensions that we mentioned is from 5 to 6. In that case, we basically get a complete array from 1 to 30. That is the and it has 5 rows and 6 columns. So this is how we define a matrix for an array. And we want to create an L matrix which is of a length of 3 rows and 2 columns, and with values in the vector. Say over here we have an array where we mentioned that we want these data to be mentioned within the array, and the dimension is again mentioned over here. And then the output is shown that we have the first 3 data, and again the second 3 data in the second column, and the complete matrix output. I want to create an M matrix of 4 into 4 with values in the vector. And here we have created an M matrix which has these values, and we want to put in all this data into a particular matrix or into a particular data frame. Then, if you type in the output is that we get all these data assembled within these frame within 4 rows and 4 columns. And thirdly, we want to create an N matrix with similar dimensions with values of 8, for all the values being 8. In that case, we type in matrix, what data that we need to put in each and every row and column, and where we mentioned the number of rows and columns, and the output is basically thrown by the R is by it has 4 columns and 4 rows, all its value, as we said that we want it to be 8. Now say we want to obtain and diagonal values of M matrix. In that case, if you type in diag M, we get all the data within the diagonal of the M matrix. Over here, if you see the M matrix diagonal is 1, 6, 11, 16 in a similar fashion. The matrix, the R program basically throws up the output that we require. Now say we want to create a diagonal vector of 3 into 3 matrix. In that case, we need to type in diag and 3, and it makes a 3 into 3 matrix over here. And say, for example, we want to combine vertically M matrix and N matrix. In that case, we want to combine vertically, we need to type in R bind and the matrix names. In that case, it gets combined in a vertical fashion, where it's this from 1 to 16 is the M matrix that we have, and then from all these 8 we have, which is the output for the N matrix. Whereas on the other hand, if you want to combine the data in horizontal manner, then in that case we type in C bind and the matrix name, and over here if you see that the data that we have, it is combined in an horizontal fashion. So this is how we basically create a matrix within our programming. And what are the key? One of the key functions in R that we can probably perform is with the numeric data. Say, for example, we have a vector with these values. Say we want to have the sum of all the data that we have. Then we just need to type in sum and the vector name, and we have the output. We want to calculate the average or the mean of the data. In that case, we just need to type in mean and the vector name. You want to know the standard deviation of the particular vector, the data within the vector. Then we just need to type in SD, and this is the output that we get. We want to know the variance within the vector data. We just need to type in VAR, whereas we want to know the medium within the vector data. Then we just need to type in median. We want to know the range. In range we have the low to high. The maximum data in the range is 20, whereas the minimum in 1 is 2. And say, for example, we want to sort the data. The data is basically sorted in an ascending fashion. So if we type in sort and the vector name, we basically get the data sorted in an ascending fashion. All right, thank you very much for listening. This will